watching Dr. Bob's Technetcast.
Einstein said that the unleashed power of the atom has changed everything except our modes of thinking, and we drift towards unparalleled catastrophes. And even though we were fortunate that the worst catastrophes he was imagining haven't happened yet, I think those of us who've studied our situation in the 20th century would agree with what he said. Especially after hearing Ray's talk, I think we can see that there's some new kinds of technology that are going to pose us some new kinds of challenges. I'd like to talk, first of all, about my optimism, because my optimism leads me to my concern. I believe genetic engineering, nanotechnology, and robotics can bring almost unimaginable wealth. They can cure diseases, they can end poverty, they can end the need for work. And there could easily be tens of thousands of .geno, .nano, and .robo companies creating trillions of dollars of wealth. And I would, just in your own mind, say what I just said again twice, because I'm not going to say the optimistic part the rest of the talk, because we hear that every day. And I got to tell you some of the less pleasant stuff. But I am optimistic, because if I wasn't optimistic about these technologies, if I didn't believe that the capitalism would drive them forward, then I wouldn't be concerned. The thing that changed for me was not so much meeting Ray in the bar, was when I, in the early 1999, met a physicist friend of mine who told me about some things he knew about nanoelectronics, and that he saw a clear path to continuing Moore's law to 2030. And that changes everything, because I had been assuming for more than a decade that Moore's law was going to run out in about 2010. That additional 20 or 30 years then gives us about a factor of 1 million increase in performance in the computers, and a factor of 1 million from where we are today is almost inconceivable. I would point out to you that a factor of 1 million reduces a millennium to about 8 hours. It reduces a lifetime to a half an hour. It reduces a year to 30 seconds. And you can do more of those yourself and say, well, I don't really understand in everyday life what a factor of 1 million is. I think we have an obligation. We're the inheritors of an incredible culture. It's rooted in the Greeks. It's an experiment we've been running in Western culture since the 5th century before the Common Era. There was an interruption, basically, when the Greek civilization fell roughly to the Renaissance. And then the acceleration of our progress certainly began with modern science and technology. Now, the Greeks were both spiritual and objective. And from what I read of the history, I think their objectivity was the key to their success in science and art. Edith Hamilton said, "The Greeks were not tempted to evade facts. It is we ourselves who are the sentimentalists, we to whom poetry, all art, is only a superficial decoration on life." The Greeks looked straight at it. They were completely unsentimental. It was a Roman who said it was sweet to die for one's country. The Greeks never said it was sweet to die for anything. They had no vital lies. And so I think to be worthy of these forefathers, we need to be unsentimental in our current situation. And that means, to be fair, often to seem blunt, and to even say things that are unpleasant, and which I'm going to do today. The 20th century, we had 3 big overhanging issues, the weapons of mass destruction: nuclear, biological, and chemical. These were developed by the military. They had largely military uses. They had little commercial value. They required large-scale activities, many billions of dollars to develop them, often needing rare raw materials. The uranium for the first few atomic bombs cost more than $1 billion in then current dollars. And the knowledge to create them was closely held in the national laboratories, and still is. It's not something you pick up routinely on the web. They're held by a small number of countries. Unfortunately, the world is becoming more multipolar. That's why President Clinton went to South Asia. And we're clearly concerned today about what people would call the loose nuke threat. Someone, I don't know who, said once, "Nuclear fission, a fit technology for a wise, far-seeing, and incorruptible people." And if anyone knows who said that, I'd like to know, and I think they were completely correct, because that we are not. Now, our 21st century technologies that I think are going to be the root causes of the danger we're going to face are genetic engineering, nanotechnology, and robotics. These differ in almost every aspect that I just mentioned from the ones of the 20th century, in every way making the problem of dealing with them worse. They're being developed by the commercial sector rather than the military. They have both military and commercial uses. They have huge commercial value, as I've already mentioned. They can be developed by small-scale activities, even personal activity on sitting at your personal computer. They don't need any rare raw materials. This is perhaps the most important point. The basic raw material to do things with these technologies is information and knowledge, basically software. It's not secret stuff. In the information age, then, I think it's fair to say, and unfortunately true, that knowledge itself can become a weapon. And this is something that we have not come to terms with in the sense that Einstein was talking about. And so I call the kinds of bad things you can do with these technologies knowledge-enabled massive destruction, or KMDs, by analogy to WMDs. And the difference here is that the ability to do these things is available to individuals and small groups in a way that it never was, because I just listed to you the political entities that control most of the WMDs, and a list of every person who could have access to KMDs is obviously very long. So what's the thing that makes these things more dangerous? It's not just that people can get access to these technologies. It's another aspect of these new technologies. It's self-replication. Basically, if you have a bomb, you can blow it up once. You've got to take it or somehow deliver it to where you're going to blow it up, and you can blow it up once. But if you release something that can replicate itself in the environment, you can do damage far out of proportion to the single act. A single act with a KMD can cause extreme harm. The fact that by 2030 we're going to be able to build machines that are 1 million times as powerful as the personal computers of today, and as we combine that computing ability with the ability to manipulate things in the physical and biological sciences and understanding what we're manipulating and being able to simulate it, we open up the opportunity for ourselves to completely redesign the world for better or for worse. So it's no surprise that we can have these unbelievable curves and dreams of doing certain things, because we can imagine using this technology to do just about anything. The replicating and evolving processes that have been confined to the natural world are about to become, as Bacon dreamed, realms of human endeavor. So the real risk we face, in my judgment, and I've worried about and studied this problem now for about 1.5 years, is that we're democratizing the ability for individuals to cause great harm. Information technology is a great democratizer. The risk of harm is extremely great because of self-replication. Accustomed to living with almost routine scientific breakthroughs, we haven't come to terms with the fact that these compelling 21st century technologies pose a different threat than the technologies that came before. An uncontrolled self-replication in these newer technologies runs a risk of substantial damage in the physical world. And we're on the verge of empowering just about everybody. And as I say in the article in Wired, I think it's no exaggeration to say we're on the cusp of the further perfection of extreme evil. That's Hannah Arendt's term. An evil whose possibility spreads well beyond that to which weapons of mass destruction bequeathed to the nation states, onto a surprising and terrible empowerment of extreme individuals. The primary danger, actually, in terms of time, is genetic engineering, because so much of the machinery is given to us already in place. People who've gone to conferences that I've heard about say that the scientists involved think we could have widespread designer pathogens in roughly 20 years or maybe less. The problem with designed pathogens is there's no natural limits on the virulence of such things. They don't have to obey the normal rules that you have to obey to stay in the environment. Normally, diseases that are widespread are relatively weak. Normally, diseases and pathogens don't extinct their target species, because if their targets go away, they go away. They co-extinct each other. But if you build one of these things in the laboratory, you don't have to obey those rules. You can get around the normal Darwinian rules that set the context when we think about the real world. We can engineer in the laboratory the level of virulence, contagion, and incubation that we want to achieve whatever objectives we want.